Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I appreciate we're almost directly after lunch, so if you want to take a little nap halfway through, we won't be offended. We know what it's like. We've been to these conferences before. It's all good. So this afternoon, we're going to be sharing with you some of our experience with delivering a real-world connected field service scenario. And in this scenario, it's actually around the sort of the healthcare and the well-being case study. So we're going to be sharing some detail with you. But first off, just to introduce who's here this afternoon. So my name's Lucy Muscat. I'm a pre-sales architect at Hitachi Solutions EU. I'm based out of London in the UK, and I work alongside my colleague Kyle. Kyle is also in the, is Director of Emerging Technologies, so Kyle's role is to really establish what's on the roadmap, what's on the horizon from Microsoft, and layer over the top what that means to our clients and our prospects. So together we work together to build hopefully inspiring scenarios for our clients, and then Kyle has the responsibility of making sure we can deliver them effectively. We're also joined today by our colleague Paul Batsey from Microsoft, who joins us from Microsoft Germany. So we're a fairly European international flavor this afternoon. So just for the next 30 seconds, I just wanted to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of Hitachi Solutions. So some of you may have heard of Hitachi, like we produce diggers and TVs and other items that you may have seen around. But Hitachi Solutions is a division of the organization that focuses purely on the Microsoft Business Applications stack. We have 3 main locations in North America, in Europe, and in Asia Pac. And Kyle and I both represent the European team. As you can see, we have a range of capabilities from field service all the way through to Dynamics, FinOps, and customer engagement. And what that really means is that we can enable digital transformation across the organization. So we're not just purely focused on one segment, but very much can drive that throughout the organization. And as an organization, we take a strong focus on delivering actual benefit to the client. So working out where you would like to go as a business and mapping that out over a series of months, years, whatever it might be. Okay, so enough about us. What I wanted to discuss today is actually around the story that we're going to tell you. So this afternoon we're going to focus in on one of our particular clients, Shropshire County Council, based smack bang in the middle of the United Kingdom, who came to us around a year ago with a scenario for really supporting vulnerable elderly individuals within their community. So as a county council, they have a whole array of different citizens under their belt, but they were finding that they were really struggling to deliver services into those vulnerable and elderly people. So as an organization, we helped put together a program of works that help deliver deliver wearable devices to 20 vulnerable individuals, so we could help capture all of the statistics that come in around that, so all of the telematics, and we can analyze the anomalies within those scenarios. We measured the battery on the devices, the heart rate, the location, and the activity of those individuals, and we fed that data straight back into not only Power BI to understand the analytics, but also into connected field service, so we could help drive out actionable actions, let's say, out of the back of that insight. So without further ado, let's move now on to, my slides are a bit screwed up, so I'm really sorry, bear with me a second. So one of the first things I think is really important to focus on is why the client chose to come to us, or what the business case was. So Kyle, could you perhaps tell us a little bit more about why Shropshire County Council decided to embark on this connected field service project?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Lucy. So as Lucy set the scene there, Shropshire Council are actually in the public sector, so they've got limited budgets and typically they're decreasing. And particularly in Shropshire, they have a very aged population. So it's getting on to 65 plus, and it's about 37% of their population is in this elderly category. And what that means is it puts a huge amount of strain on those resources, particularly around the medical space. So keeping these people alive becomes a challenge from a financial perspective. And also we've seen huge advances in medicine. So what that means is these people are living longer. So if they do develop any sort of condition, making sure that these people live a quality of life that is acceptable becomes a challenge for the council. They are obviously mandated to provide these sort of services, so they're trying to find innovative ways to do that. This is kind of where our solution starts to take place, and one of the primary scenarios is making sure that these people are safe in their homes. And that may sound trivial, but there's scenarios where people are freezing to death in their homes every year. And to quantify that, in the UK alone, 50,000 people a year freeze to death in their own home. It's mind-boggling. And what we're trying to do, and assist Shropshire Council, and what we are doing with them, is making sure that these people actually don't freeze in their homes. We're making sure that they don't have falls and put a strain on these resources, but ultimately they have a better quality of life. So as we're going through here, we'll see that what they're being able to do is reallocate their funds to ensure that this quality of life is increased by being proactive and preventing disaster, a fall or something like that, or a disease from happening. And this is all underpinned by Dynamics and the Microsoft ecosystem as a whole.
Absolutely, thanks for that. And just to give a little bit more colour to that picture, on average it costs around £400 to support an elderly or a vulnerable individual in their home, as opposed to over £2,200 to support them weekly in hospital. So we're talking about huge cost savings, and just over the space of a year we can save up to £36,000 per individual. So from a corporate perspective, from a financial efficiency perspective, whilst there was an initial investment in the technology and in deploying the stack, they could really quite easily see some recoups. And we're going to look a little bit more into the detail of what the benefit to the client was a bit later. So you've heard the story a little bit now about what we delivered into Shropshire and why they came to us and why they chose to do a connected field service and wearable project. But how did we do it, Kyle? Can you tell us a little bit more about the process that got us there?
So absolutely. One of the key things that we had to do here is work together with Shropshire. But it wasn't limited there. We actually developed a relationship with Microsoft. We had a pre-existing one, but we worked together. We all had skin in the game. Good example of that is having Paul with us here today. And what that helps us do is make sure that the customer's needs are always aligned to what the technology can deliver, and we can keep pushing the boundaries there. The more innovation that we can bring to light, the better the scenarios that are going to be catered for the end customer. So I hope you're reading along here, because one of the big challenges we have in delivering IoT projects is ensuring a minimal scope, something that's achievable. Having great goals and solving world hunger is admirable, but at the end of the day, Shropshire needed to deliver some results in a relatively short period of time. I'm sure you all agree that 50,000 people dying a year of freezing to death in their house, absolutely unacceptable. What we had to do and spend a lot of time is actually working with Shropshire to tease out their stories. So being new to the IoT technology, they're in the public sector, they weren't aware of what the technology could actually do. So we worked with them extensively to quantify their business case and also put some valid user stories together, as well as a roadmap. And a lot of the roadmap got feedback, got input from Microsoft to help us and assist with us, and that was the other leg of the partnership that was coming through. Finally, we put some personas together to make sure that a number of interested parties could be represented. Obviously, the person that needs to stop from freezing to death, their neighbours, some of the rescue and medical services, as well as their family and extended people at the council. So all of these people had to be considered and taken care of in the scenario, and they were. And then finally, you actually get into the construction. And to be honest, that's the easy part of that. Microsoft gives you the services and they give you a lot of acceleration so that you can actually get started and start delivering value in these scenarios.
Just to add to that a little bit, I think what's quite groundbreaking or unusual as a consultant or as a provider of services in this space is historically we've probably spent a large period of our time in that purple space, delivering the construction, putting together the solution, whereas really in this particular scenario and what we're noticing with our projects at the moment is everything left of that stage is where our focus is really lying, building out those use cases, really understanding the requirements of not only the users that will be wearing the wearable devices, but also those in the customer service side, those that are going to be offering the services alongside it and perhaps making those actionable insights. One thing also to pick up on at that point is, and we're going to cover this a little bit more when we talk about the challenges of this project, is right up front we really, alongside the business case, we really had to think about the legalities around the contractual agreements, what services we were going to provide as a result of the insights that we captured. And that's something we're going to pick on a bit later. But before we do that, so we've heard a little bit more about how we delivered and what the story was, but what did this really mean to the customer, Kyle?
Having a little bit of slide malfunction there. Being in the public sector again, this was a limited budget project. They didn't have multi-millions to throw at this. They needed to demonstrate value really quickly and then apply for more funding on top of that. So we initially engaged in a POC type of scenario to prove the value. And one of the things that was really important for Shropshire was not just to prove value tactically, but to put a number of value cases together so that we get consolidated and summarized value that adds up, kind of sum of the parts is greater. And a key part of this was actually the data that started coming out and cross-referencing that data with some of the statistics that they had validated from the universities that they were working with. And what this enabled us to do is start running some algorithms on top of the data. And the proactive and the preventative outcomes are only as good as the data that we have to feed them. So this telemetry that was coming in, super valuable, but the outcomes and the execution of that was even more so. And that was a key benefit that they've seen and are continuing to see, and that's where the most investment is going forward, making sure that these data structures are in place and able to support things as their scenarios grow out. Obviously, there's a need for real time. We saw some great demos this morning about some of the real-time reporting and dashboarding that's coming through. All of that ultimately is centralized around a profile sitting in Dynamics. And that's where it really comes into providing a single view of the citizen. And people talk about it, they really do. We're all going to strive for it for the rest of our lives, but it's becoming a lot easier. And with that centralized data, the actions that we can take are a lot more informed. And in a regulated industry, particularly in health, when you're making a decision like this, you need to quantify why and validate why. And Dynamics in this space is definitely helping us with that.
So I think one of the real key points, now we've established that technology has the capability, we've put in those strong foundations. What are the next steps for Shropshire?
So what we were able to do is lay a foundational base that really enabled us to move forward fairly quickly. We proved the base case and we were able to scale it out. And scaling it out means applying for more funding from Shropshire and from the national government and the NHS, but also scaling out the platform. Accommodating more devices in the home, accommodating medical grade devices with a number of suppliers. We're currently supporting 8 different vendors just in the POC, and we've got a long list of further devices going forward, particularly on the request of the GPs who have got access to this data as well. You can see obviously there's a number of further use cases, expanding out into the GP network, expanding out into the NHS network, expanding out into just providing tailored services and engagements. A lot of the incentives for local businesses in terms of getting these citizens active. They are elderly, going and having communal meetings, having coffees, those sorts of scenarios has got some business benefit for the wider community, which is starting to draw in participants and generate jobs there. And finally, making sure that this is really easy to engage with from a registration perspective. Today, we've all got bespoke devices, we've got wearables, we've got Google Nest, whatever they may be. They're not designed out of the box to work with these type of solutions. A lot of effort has gone into there so it can be seamless, so that a sort of elderly generation who are technology adverse can quite quickly pick this up and move forward with it and see some value not only for themselves, but for the rest of their family.
So next, my favourite question, and probably the hardest one to answer. So for the guys that are listening today, that are thinking perhaps about how they might engage with an IoT project or how they might be able to support their customers in an IoT project and a connected field service, what were the key challenges that we faced when delivering this project?
So there were a couple. No project goes perfectly. We've called them out already, but the number of vendors that we were supporting, they all have their own APIs, they all have their own ways of doing things, they all have their own set of legal requirements and documents that you have to get signed before you can start sharing the data. Obviously, GDPR on top of that makes it challenging. One of the greater challenges that we had was adoption on the whole. So these are elderly people that are technology averse. We need to remind them to wear their devices. We need them to make sure that there's electricity in the house. We need to keep them engaged and keep proving benefits to them. Some of the toughest customers we've ever worked with, but some of the most honest, and they give you feedback immediately, and they don't hold any punches. They let you know what they're thinking and what will provide value for them. And ultimately, we had a huge challenge around the liability that Lucy mentioned earlier. And one case in particular, that if we're monitoring telemetry of these people and somebody actually dies, who actually is responsible for that? So something to keep in mind, we had to get the lawyers involved. If you are monitoring somebody's health, you could be subject to a manslaughter claim. Now that is an extreme, but it's definitely something that you should have a look into and say, just because we're providing these services doesn't mean we're covered. So with investing in that, and those are some of the challenges that we've faced and been able to overcome with the help of Microsoft in no small part.
Absolutely. And so in terms of actually delivering the project, what was our initial approach to getting into Shropshire?
So Hitachi took an interesting approach where we invested in these IoT type of solutions beforehand, and that ultimately facilitated us doing some art of the possible demos for Shropshire, showing them the technology, working with them in scenarios that are tailored to their industry so that they could realize the benefits of this. That also included working in collaboration. We mentioned it before, but it wasn't only just the Hitachi team. We had members from the Microsoft product team. We had members from the actual council. We had members from the actual citizens that would be taking part, all so that they were represented. Fairly uncommon in a POC of this size. And to give you an idea, this was a sort of sub £100,000 project, and it was completed in 7 weeks. Okay, so anyone who's been in these sort of projects, you'll agree in the public sector that is quite remarkable. Those time frames are incredibly tight, but we managed to work together. And not only that, we put some joint investment as well. You realize the social causes that you can potentially combat here, how you can help, and do something greater than just billing a customer. And Hitachi and Microsoft invested in that use case because we can see the value in providing this quality of life for the citizens, and we're looking to scale it out to a number of other authorities as well.
What I'm really keen to understand, Kyle, is why, as an organisation and why, as a local authority, we chose Microsoft over the rest of the options in the stack.
So there were some great slides on it this morning, but we visualised it here as well. And 3 key aspects. The first one is the ability to share data. So we spoke about all the different vendors, we spoke about a structured platform, and we spoke about being able to transport this data backwards and forwards. Being able to action that data equally is important, and Microsoft really does facilitate that end-to-end. And we see that being facilitated by the convergence of the 3 clouds. So we're talking about Office 365, we're talking about Azure, and we're talking about, Office 365, D365, and Modern Workplace.
Modern Workplace.
So there we go. Those are all starting to come together. And again, the extended benefits realization is absolutely huge there. And the roadmap that we have in conjunction with Microsoft is one of the key factors. So we're not delivering a point-in-time solution. We're making sure that this solution will continue to delivering value into the future and expanding into new use cases so that it's not a sunk cost that gets wasted in a couple of months' time when the technology no longer supports it.
And in terms of why we decided to get involved in the project, what was our business case and our approach to the solution?
So one of the interesting things for Hitachi is the actual evolution of our business. Because Microsoft's making it so easy to pin these services together, plumb them together, deliver these values, system integrators like ourselves have had to work and redefine ourselves and make sure that we're able to continue delivering value to our customers, but in a different fashion. So I spoke about it earlier where we invested in these art of the possibles, adopting these technologies and showing customers how they could actually embrace them. That was one of the things that we could do. We also expanded into some new workloads. We saw some demos of AI today. That used to be really, really difficult to do. Ingesting IoT data used to cost you tens of millions. Creating IoT devices, same sort of scenario. But ultimately, it came down to social messaging. Hitachi is big into social innovation. They believe in changing people's lives. And, from a corporate perspective, this is something that got a lot of attention from both us and from Microsoft. And we saw the value that we could bring and the continuity that we could do in terms of putting these solutions together and changing the lives of these citizens.
So I'm conscious of time, but what I'm really keen to do is leave the guys with some top tips on how they might want to go ahead and deliver their own project.
Absolutely. So get started small. These don't have to be massive projects. Hitachi typically focuses on enterprise projects. This, as an example, was well under £100,000. We spoke about the accelerators. Make that investment early on. The skills are there, the platform's there, it's going to support you. There's lots of hardware out there today, if you just have a look. And it can be custom designed for you. We can speak about it afterwards. There are a number of providers. Ultimately, collaborate. Microsoft's here to support you. They put on this great big conference. They have industry teams, they have platform teams, they have engineering teams, sales teams, as well as the partner and the communities that are out there. And a lot of these communities are third-party communities that'll do it out of the goodness of their heart. You get them involved and they really will help. And finally, I try to highlight this all the way through, but it's a combination of value points. If you do these IoT solutions, connected field service solutions, tactically in isolation, you're going to battle to continually prove the value. You put a couple of use cases together, it's going to be no problem at all, and you'll have a long roadmap ahead of you.
Now, I am conscious that we're running over time, but in true British fashion, we have a couple of giveaways. So for those of you that have been here the whole time, can anyone tell me how much it costs to treat someone in their own home for a Microsoft Flick, kindly donated by the wonderful Paul Batsy? Right, £400. How about if we were to support them in hospital a week? 200, I'm so sorry. Well done. Almost. And finally, how much could we potentially save across the year if we were to treat someone in their own home? Not quite, a bit less than that. Thank you, 36,000, so congratulations. Okay. Brilliant. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We've really enjoyed presenting to you. If you'd like to catch up with Kyle and I, feel free to after the session. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks.